Hi class, in this video I'm going to go over the appendicular skeleton and the bone names and bone markings that you need to know. Okay, so first one on your list is the clavicle. This is the bone. It helps to push the arms out where they are. Okay, so it's found like right underneath the shoulder anteriorly. Okay, there's only two parts you need to know. It's this little S-shaped bone here. There's only two parts you need to know. The sternal end, also known as the medial end, is this flatter end there. And then the acromial end is this end here. It's also the lateral end. Okay, so sternal end is the flat one. Acromial end is this more curved one here. Okay, scapula. This is the shoulder blade bone here. Okay, so parts you need to know here are the acromion. It's this one labeled B. Okay, it's one that kind of comes up and over. Kind of looks like a wave of water, right? A here, this is the spine. Okay, so you can see it's kind of sharp. So acromion, spine. Coracoid process is this one here that's kind of like underneath the wave. Remember, process is something that sticks out. So this one here is the coracoid process. And then the glenoid cavity, also known as the glenoid fossa, is this indentation labeled C here. So that is where the head of the humerus articulates. Okay, so that's the scapula. Okay, now we're getting into our upper limbs. So let's start with the humerus. This is the bone in the upper arm. Okay. The head of the humerus is this rounded part labeled A here. So that's the part that articulates with the glenoid fossa or glenoid cavity of the scapula bone. Okay. Give me 1 second. Okay. You also need to know the deltoid tuberosity. Is this area labeled B here? It's like this little rough projection that sticks out here. Okay, so that's the deltoid tuberosity. The trochlea is this one labeled D here. It's shaped like a spool. This one labeled C here is the capitulum. Okay, and then the olecranon fossa. It's a little faded, but it's this indentation here labeled E. And that is where the olecranon of the ulna bone fits into. Okay, so it fits in like this. Okay, so olecranon fossa. So those are all the parts of the humerus that you need to know. The bone in the upper arm. Okay. Now let's go to the lower arm bones. So it's these two here. The radius is this one that has almost that perfectly round head. Okay, so I always think of the radius of a circle because it has that perfect circle. And then the ulna is this one that has this hook. Okay, so let's see what parts you need to know. Okay, the radius, the head, again, is that rounded part there. So A is the head of the radius. The radial tuberosity is this part that sticks out. Remember, tuberosity are roughened projections. So it's labeled B on here, I believe, but it's rubbed off. So this one here is the radial tuberosity. Okay. The ulnar notch is on the radius, and it's called the ulnar notch because it's where the ulna articulates. So it fits in kind of like that. So it's this notch labeled C here, ulnar notch. And then the styloid process is this part that sticks down. Okay, so that would be the radial styloid process. That part that sticks down there. Okay, so that's the radius. That's the lateral bone in the lower arm when standing in anatomical position. The medial bone when standing in anatomical position in the lower arm is this one. This is the ulna. Okay, so the olecranon or olecranon process is this one A. It's the top of the hook here. Okay, olecranon or olecranon process. Trochlear notch is the indentation here labeled B, this indentation part of the hook. Okay, radial notch. Again, radial notch is where the head of the radius is going to fit into, so it's on the ulna. So radial notch of the ulna is D, that little indentation there. Okay. The head of the ulna is this part down here. Okay, so not the side that the notch is on. This part is the head. Okay, and then the ulnar styloid process is this part that sticks down here. Okay, ulnar styloid process, that part. Okay. All right, now we're going to get into the hand. So where's my hand? Here it is. Okay. So these are the carpal bones. We'll go through those in a minute. Okay. These here are the metacarpal bones. So they're the ones, I only have one hand, but it's the ones on the back of the hand. And then the phalanges or phalanx bones are these ones that make up the finger. Okay, so we have 3 on each finger, except we have 2 on the thumb. And they're named proximal phalanx, middle phalanx, distal phalanx. The thumb just has a proximal and a distal. Okay. And they're numbered 1 through 5 starting at the thumb. So this would be proximal phalanx 1, proximal phalanx 2, etc. going across. Okay. Same thing with the metacarpals, and they're named 1 through 5 starting at the thumb. So metacarpal 1, metacarpal 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. All right. Now let me turn this back over. We're going to get into the bone names here. These are the carpal bones. Okay. Okay. So this one here, labeled A, this is the scaphoid bone. Okay, A is the scaphoid bone. Right above that one, right under the thumb, is the trapezium. Okay, this small one next to the trapezium labeled F, that is the trapezoid. Okay, right next to that one labeled G here, this larger one, that is the capitate. And then the one labeled H here is the hamate. Okay. Now let's go back down here. So remember, this one was the scaphoid bone. Right next to it, this one here is the lunate. And you can't really tell, but if you kind of look at it this way, lunate means moon, so it kind of looks like it's kind of shaped like a half moon. If you look at it from that angle, B. Okay, so B there is lunate. Then we have the pisiform is this small one. So it means P because it's kind of shaped like a P. Okay, and then triquetrum is this one down here. I can't tell what letter that is, but it's this one where my finger is pointing to. Okay. So pisiform is on the triquetrum. Okay, so make sure you know those carpal bones. So these are the bones in the wrist. Okay, next on your list, through all that, the pelvic bone. Okay, so this is the hip girdle. This is not actually called the pelvic bone, sorry. It's part of the pelvis. This is called the coxal bone. This is one of 2 coxal bones. We have one on each side. Okay, so each hip bone is made up of 3 bones. It's made up of 3 main bones. So this one at the top labeled 1 here, that's the ilium. This one that has the rounded side here, that's the ischium. And then this one that's kind of pointy here, that's the pubis. So like this whole area is the pubis. Okay. Now you need to know specific bone markings on all of those parts. So let's start with the ilium. Okay. So this side is the anterior side. The pubis faces anteriorly. Okay, so this side would be the anterior side. So the anterior superior iliac spine is this part labeled B here. Okay. The iliac crest is this whole crest here. Okay, and then B, this area is the anterior superior iliac spine. Okay. Now if we move it like this part D here, this is the auricular surface. Auricular surface. Okay, and then the greater sciatic notch is this large indentation, this large notch here. Greater sciatic notch. Okay, the ischium is this more rounded area here of the coxal bone. Okay, ischium. The ischial tuberosity is this rough area here labeled E, ischial tuberosity. Okay, and then the pubis bone, this part labeled H here, that's the pubic symphysis. And that's where the joint attaches. So you'd have cartilage in between the two coxal bones at this pubic symphysis area, and the name of the joint is the pubic symphysis. Okay. And then two other structures that you need to know that traverse all of the three bones that make this up. This opening here, this large hole, that is the obturator foramen. Okay, a foramen is always a hole or opening. Obturator foramen. And then this large indentation here is the acetabulum. This is where the head of the femur articulates. So you can see it fits nicely within there. Okay, so that's the coxal bone, one of the hip bones. Okay, I don't have a pelvis here, so I'm going to skip that one. We'll go over that one in class. I just want to show you this little bone here. This is the patella, the kneecap bone, patella. You don't need to know any parts of this. Just know that this is the patella. Okay, now let's get to the femur. Okay, parts you need to know on the femur. Let's start with the head. So this is the head of the femur, the part that connects to the acetabulum of the coxal bone. So head. This part labeled B, where the head comes out of, that's the neck. So this whole area is the neck of the femur. Okay. This part that comes up and over here, this is the greater trochanter. And then this part down here is the lesser trochanter. Okay. Okay. Coming from here, there's this little sharp line. That is the gluteal tuberosity. Okay, this line here, gluteal tuberosity. Okay. And it comes up and down, and then it becomes the linea aspera. Okay, and then the condyles are the last part you need to know. So the side that the head is on, that's going to be the medial side, right? Because that's the part that attaches to the body, and then this side would be the lateral side. So if we go down from the medial side, this area here would be the medial condyle, and then this one labeled G here is the lateral condyle of the femur. Okay, medial condyle on the same side as the head of the femur, and the lateral condyle on the same side as the greater trochanter. Okay. All right, the two bones in the lower leg are these two. This one here is the tibia, and this one here is the fibula. Make sure you don't mix those two up with each other, okay? Okay, so let's go over the fibula first because there's only two parts of it you need to know. This part here is the head, A, and it kind of like comes up and across here. A is the head. And then this part here is the lateral malleolus, and that makes up the lateral side of the ankle. It's like this thinner one. Okay, so that's the fibula, that's the lateral bone in the lower leg. This one here is the tibia. This is the medial bone in the lower leg. Okay, all right, so for the tibia down here, this is the medial malleolus. So this makes up the medial part of the ankle. Okay, The tibial tuberosity is this part. So this is anterior. And you could actually feel this if you touch like right below where the knee is. So tibial tuberosity, okay? And then the condyles, so again, this is the medial malleolus. So if we go up, this would be the medial side. So this one labeled A here is the medial condyle, and this one labeled B here is the lateral condyle, okay? So medial condyle, lateral condyle. And I know because the medial condyle is on the same side of the medial malleolus. Okay, so that is the tibia. And then last we have the foot. So the foot is pretty similar to the hand, except the tarsal bones are named differently from the carpal bones. But the phalanges are named the same. And instead of carpal, you hear tarsal. So these bones here are the metatarsal bones, and they're also labeled 1 through 5, starting with the big toe. These are the phalanx bones. So same thing, proximal, middle, distal phalanx. For the big toe, proximal, distal phalanx. Okay, proximal phalanx 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so these are numbered the same as well. Now, the tarsal bones, these ones I feel like are not as bad because they're all kind of differently sized and shaped. These ones are differently shaped as well, but they're all around the same size. Some of them you can't tell that they're a different shape. So these ones are a bit easier to tell apart, okay? So this one back here, this large one, that's the calcaneus, okay? Calcaneus bone. So that's the heel bone. Remember, calcaneal meant heel, so this is the calcaneus bone. This one here is the talus. This one labeled A, that's the talus bone. Okay. This one here labeled C, that is the cuboid bone. This one labeled D here, that is the navicular. And then starting from the cuboid, or actually starting here where we have the big toe, if you go down, this one labeled E, this is the first cuneiform. This one F is the second cuneiform. And this one G is the third cuneiform. Okay, so you start medial in the foot, first, second, third cuneiform. Okay, and those are all of the tarsal bones. So they're similar to the carpal bones in the hand. Okay, so those are all the appendicular bone and bone parts.